James, thank you for coming in today to talk about Think, Eat, Sleep, Repeat, our new weight loss program that I know you were hugely involved in, and it was great to have an expert on board. I know you've got 20 years experience. I mean, that's incredible in the health fitness industry. I want to, in our brief chat today, dig down, if we will, to why you think there's an obesity epidemic, how that is impacting people's not only their health and wellness, but their mental health. In your experience, and I know you own your own gym, why do you think we are amidst this global epidemic?
Well, it's down to a variety of factors. It's not just one reason. It's down to a combination of things. Food has never been so readily available. Our lifestyles have never become so easy. And I think we've never overcomplicated a problem quite so much as we have today. So the concept of what we've been speaking about with Think, Eat, Sleep, Repeat is very much on my level, because it's about bringing people back to the basics of understanding how to move more and control what they eat, which I feel now has been vastly overcomplicated by the amount of diets that there are out there. Yeah. And this has further compounded the obesity problem. So a lot of people that I consult on a day-to-day basis are speaking to me because they are so confused about what to do. So when I confirm the message to them about they just need to be a bit more accountable of moving more and controlling what they eat, they're always refreshed to hear that from me.
How many of your clients have been on multiple diets, would you say?
Most people that I consult in current years have all been on diets. I can't remember the last person that I spoke to that hasn't been on a diet, and there's also a reason why they've come to see me, because they obviously haven't worked.
And in terms of movement, what would you recommend in terms of like steps per day?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting point to cover, because I think there's this figure out there which is 10,000 steps a day. It's what the government recommend, and it's not really backed up by a huge amount. It's really a figure out of thin air. So when I'm consulting somebody, first of all, we establish how much they are physically moving. Yeah. Because 10,000 steps to someone might be quite a daunting prospect to start engaging in that on a week-to-week basis. So if someone's baseline on average is say 4,000, then I would encourage them to go to 5. So it'd be a gradual increase from there.
I know you've worked over the past few years particularly on body transformations, and I know from what you've said that sometimes people don't finish the program.
Yes.
Are there any universals to the people that do succeed, that get to the end of the program and have transformed their health? Is there any kind of pattern that you see for those that achieve, and those that kind of fall off the wagon, for that expression?
It all starts with the mind. If somebody wants to achieve it that much, they will find a way to do it. I mean, the simplicity of the formula that I deliver, which is move more and eat less, can't put it better than that, is always very powerful, but somebody has to want to make that physical change. So my job as a nutritionist and health and fitness expert is always in that consultation phase to make sure people are aligned with that particular goal they're looking to achieve. And I also do things about meeting expectations. Because of what we see and who we speak to now, we feel that we should be losing a lot more weight each week than what we actually should be. So my guidance is always based on a 1 to 2 pounds a week, which I see as healthy, sustainable weight loss. Any more than that, it becomes problematic later on.
And I know we've spoken about how many clients that you've seen when, because on your program they're asked to track what they're eating, how many are eating more than they actually think they are. Why do you think it is that we almost, for want of a better expression, delude ourselves and eat almost in a trance? What's propagated?
Trance is a very good word to put against it, because most people I consult, that they will say something like, I don't know where I'm going wrong because I hardly eat anything. And obviously the reality is they are, but what you find when you start to drill down into those habits and behaviours is their eating is very bingy and erratic. So what you find is day to day, because they're busy, they could have jobs which mean they can't sit down and have a structured lunch or snacks. They miss meals and then they binge on the weekends. If we looked at their energy balance over the course of the week, they are actually overeating, but they're not doing it on a regular basis. So I do understand why people say that to me.
So somebody who is using the Think, Eat, Sleep, Repeat program, and many people are and having incredible successes, the feedback is phenomenal. Is there anything you'd like to put into the mix in terms of a top tip, a suggestion, a kind of a direction, so to speak? What would you say to somebody having all that experience you've got?
Yeah, I mean, again, my message is always keep things simple as possible. So just be consistent and don't underestimate the power of movement. I would absolutely try to make sure that every day that you are completing a certain step number, and whatever that is very relevant to you. So if it is 5,000 steps a day on average for a couple of weeks, then maybe on week 3 and beyond, you start increasing it up gently, and that will help to keep promoting results, providing the nutrition is in place with all the things with your app.
And what would you say to somebody who perhaps, for whatever reason, maybe it's time restrictions, maybe it's lifestyle, maybe it's some inability to be able to sadly do that. Myself, I find walking difficult. Somebody who cannot achieve that kind of level of movement, what would you say to them?
Well, first of all, if I bring it back to the law of thermodynamics, energy goes in, energy goes out, and unfortunately not one of us are exempt from that equation, regardless of any sort of health issues which might influence the metabolic factors. Not one of us are exempt from that, so we need to find a way to keep moving those numbers in the right direction. So if I go back to your point, if you don't have the time to complete 10,000 steps a day, so I would then gravitate towards gym training, because it means that we can burn more energy off in a quicker amount of time. But we have to find a way in order to meet those targets.
That's a really, really interesting point. If you could only do one thing, go to the gym and lift weights, not necessarily heavy weights, but do some sort of weightlifting or steps, which would be the most effective? And that's a real tough question.
I think it very much comes down to the individual. This is really important. The step count, regardless of how bad, how good or indifferent, it should always be counted, because that number, that metric must be measured. So if somebody was to come to me and present a problem with a plateau they've been sat on for weeks or months, then I would need that number to then understand which foot to put forward next. So if step count couldn't be completed, or somebody wouldn't mind going to the gym, or they were to invest in a cross trainer or a Peloton, then really it comes down to individual preference. So really it doesn't make any physical difference which one you decide to do. Yeah, of course there are benefits associated with higher intensity training, and there are benefits associated with lower intensity training, but from the perspective of losing weight, it doesn't matter which of those metrics we choose to increase, as long as we make sure that we are being accountable on a weekly basis.
Why do you think it is, in your experience, that diets don't work? And the same question, if you will, why do so many individuals, particularly this time of year, still pursue a diet, perhaps a diet club or the next new fad? I mean, I don't know how many diets there are. I know they're almost limitless. Why is it you think diets don't work?
Well, I've been doing this for 22 years, and I've never, in the years that I've been a nutritionist and trainer, ever experienced a diet per se that actually works. I think it's down to a lot of deprivation and people giving up things which they're not willing to give up on, and actually unnecessarily to give up on as well. So my always go-to is calorie management and working that within the rhythm of someone's lifestyle. So any diet which has got a name in front of it, whether it's 5-2 or it could be old school here with the Atkins diet or a low carb diet, all of which will have extremely high failure rate attached to them, and it's because of the deprivation. It's not working with somebody's natural daily rhythm. It has to be something which is people understand the choices that they're making, and they're making at their own will and not being forced into a framework which is just completely unnatural for their body and their mind.
I know that when you were helping us complete the Think, Eat, Sleep, Repeat program, that you created a fantastic video for us about protein, which I think is very misunderstood. What can you say about protein? Do we on average consume too much, too little?
Yeah, the thing is, again, with the length of time that I've done this and also studying sports science, I always try not to baffle people with unnecessary advice. But it is good to understand nutrition at a basic level of calories. So what the energy which requires to move the human body, that's important. And as we go up from calories being the base point, then we have what's called macros. So protein, fats, and carbohydrates. Now, the macro that I put a lot of focus on is protein, because one of out of the three macros, it's the only macro which we call thermogenic, so it actually requires heat to break it down.
Yeah.
So protein is only 4 calories per gram, whereas fat's 9 calories per gram. I'm not demonizing fats here, but just so we can actually quantify the energy within protein. But it also, unlike the other two, carbs and fats, it requires a lot more heat to break it down in the body. So it gives great fill-up value. It also helps the building and repair of cells, so it's great for recovery if you're exercising. And it also helps to give the metabolism a bit of a lift.
If there were, this is a hell of a question, and I know you're not prepared for it. I know you have a huge amount of experience. If there were 5 foods that somebody was going to live on, who was going to look to lose weight to transform their body, mm-hmm. and those foods could be any sort of food, what would those 5 foods be?
So those 5 foods, I would say, let's start with a good protein source. So one would be eggs. Eggs are one of the best sources of protein known to man. They're fully bioavailable. It means the bodies can utilize them. They're also rich in good fats. I'm a huge fan of steak as well. So red meat and steak, again, very, very nutrient dense food and very high in protein, no carbohydrates, so it's not causing any raise in blood sugar. And if we look more towards the carbohydrate front, then I would say oats is a really good, so oatmeal within diet is great. It contains some really good fiber, so it's very good for the gut. Number 4, I would say a good yogurt based snack, so something like the Skyer high protein yogurts are pretty good.
Okay.
You know, or even something like Onken are very good as well. And don't use the low fat ones. Always go full fat, because what's been taken out from the fat will be replaced usually by sugar, which I think is an important point to note.
Yeah, could we just delve down to that for a second? That's so interesting. Why are low fat foods so bad for us, or rather lack the positive effects of their full fat normal counterpart?
I think just to declutter this a lot, because from the perspective of weight loss, I do see and understand the need for choosing foods which are lower in calories, so lower fat. The negative from a health perspective, the more they've been messed about with by humans, so they've had their natural calories taken out of them then replaced, then we are running into lower nutrient dense food, which means they're not going to be as beneficial to overall health. And I think this has also been hugely monopolized by the food industry, where they've used these terms like 0% fat, and now, which seems to be very popular at the moment, is putting protein on chocolate bars. So people gravitate towards protein because it's now a buzzword, so to actually choose their food. So they could have on a Mars bar, a protein Mars, and they would eat that feeling it's a healthy choice. But the reality is, it's all in context. I'm not saying don't eat it, but just because it's got protein or it's got low fat on it does not mean at all that it's a healthy choice.
That's fascinating. James, thank you so much for coming in today.
My pleasure.
And your support of Think, Eat, Sleep,
No,
Repeat.
and again, I also, as well, just on the back of that, so the concept aligns with me, like we've spoke about extensively before, and I know a few of my clients have tried it as well. So again, it aligns with everything I'm saying, and for me, any message that I can get out there is just to simplify this industry in general. Then I'm absolutely all for, because more people need to hear the message about eating less and moving more, which your app does absolutely work terrifically.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.